Hey, what is up? Welcome to this episode of the Entrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian Lofermento, and this is an episode that I've been looking forward to for quite some time because I've got all the love in the world for this skill that today's guest brings to this episode. It's a skill that touches every single one of us as we're growing our businesses. It touches our marketing, our sales, our products, our servings, our offerings, our branding, our messaging, all of that. And it has to do with copywriting. We've got an incredible guest to navigate us through these waters. Her name is Bridget Poston. She's an email marketing strategist and direct response copywriter who helps brands discover the untapped revenue within their email list. From high converting email copy to beautifully designed campaigns, her work has helped several businesses increase their monthly revenue by more than 70%. That's the impact that today's topic can have on your business. Bridget is recognized for her cat-like attention to detail, quick communication, and ability to get inside the minds of her readers. It's going to be such a focal point of our conversation today. Driven by data and rooted in empathy, her email strategies are uniquely tailored to each brand and work to develop long-term relationships with your customers. When she's not crafting emails, you'll find her taste testing new cuisines, chatting it up at networking events, or busting out her favorite dance moves. She's a fellow former Angelino, just like me. So I'm so excited about today's conversation. I'm not going to say anything else. Let's dive straight into my interview with Bridget Poston. All right, Bridget, I'm so excited that you're here. Welcome to the Entrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Brian. I'm honestly so excited to be here and to just dive into all things copywriting and email marketing.
Heck yeah. And that's the one thing, I didn't say it in the intro, I certainly should have, is that you also make this stuff fun. I love the energy that you bring. You're obviously very passionate about what you do. So fill in those gaps for listeners. They always love hearing guests' backstories. How did you get here? How did you end up doing what you're doing? I know you've got an interesting entrepreneurial transition. Share it with us.
Yeah, so honestly, it has been quite a journey when it comes to copywriting and my email marketing business. As you know, it's called Beeline Copy, and I came up with that name, honestly, because, well, I love honeybees, I love the color yellow and sunshine, and that's the kind of vibe that I want to emit from my brand. But let's kind of go back in time for a moment to talk about how I got started and where I came from. So honestly, I am from Los Angeles originally, but I now live in a small town in Ohio. 4 years ago, my partner and I moved to Ohio. The reason would take up a whole nother podcast episode, so I will leave that out. But we moved out here, and honestly, it was a huge culture shock. You know, we left everything behind. We left our cars behind, our jobs behind, and we had nothing but honestly each other and our savings accounts. And we just took a leap of faith and came out here to really start a new life and pursue new goals. So I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I actually got a job in finance, and it was going really well. You know, I felt like I had made it at some point because I was making the most money I've ever made. I had a great manager who was super supportive. I had a great team members who also lifted me up and supported me. And, I was hitting my performance goals. I was improving my communication skills and my sales skills and just learning so much in the finance industry. So I was feeling pretty good. But then it got to a point where I would come home and I would just kind of think, is this it? You know, is this what I'm going to keep doing? Do I want to keep doing this? And it got to a point where I just kind of felt filled with restlessness and a lack of fulfillment. And honestly, that ate at me day after day for weeks and months until I started to kind of scour the internet for opportunities. I'm like, what else can I do? You know, I've always thought about entrepreneurship. I love to write. Marketing has always been an interest of mine, but I had no idea what to do. So after scouring the internet and getting inspiration from other entrepreneurs, I came across this little thing called copywriting. And I was like, what the heck is copywriting, you know? So I essentially just dove in and completely immersed myself in this world of copywriting. I would, work 9-hour days, come home, and then spend, 2 to 4 hours working on my business, which was just copywriting at the time. I did everything from blog posts to product descriptions, sales pages, and emails before niching down to email only. And the reason I did that is not only because I just love the flow of emails and I find it fun to write, But I was impressed and almost, quite frankly, enamored by how much money email marketing can generate for businesses. And I'm like, that's so cool. I would love to be able to help other business owners out there grow their business while growing my business and, living a life of more fulfillment. So that's what I set out to do. And I started writing email copy for different marketing agencies, for different brands. And eventually I came across something. And this is when I pivoted more towards email marketing strategy as a whole, not just the copywriting side. I noticed that e-commerce brands in particular need someone to manage all of their email marketing because there are lots of moving parts. There's design, there's copy, there's strategy, there's building out the email sequences and a whole lot more. Lots of tech stuff too. And I'm like, well, it seems like there's a need here. So that's when I dove in, and it's been about 1.5 years now since I took that specific leap. And ever since then, I have been helping e-commerce brands primarily grow their business and particularly find untapped revenue within their email list. Because a lot of these brands, they're startups, maybe they've been around for a while, but they just don't have the time to manage email marketing because there is a lot to it, especially if you want to come up with a good strategy that actually generates income. Or generates revenue. So ever since then, I've basically just been diving into this world, helping different brands, increase their revenue and customer retention with hyper-personalized emails.
Yeah, I love that overview, Bridget. I know that listeners hearing that, there's so many parts of what you just shared with us that they're going to be like, wait, Bridget, you said that this stuff is fun. A lot of people don't think of copy as fun. And part of me, obviously, I've already given a shout out to the awesome energy that you bring to the table. But when you start talking about how fun it is and we see and we feel and we can hear the energy that you bring to these types of projects, it genuinely, I can see why you enjoy this stuff, which is funny because when we're talking about copy, it's probably the biggest pain point that a lot of business owners have is they say, in my head, I know how much value I bring to the table, whether they sell an e-commerce product, whether they sell a service, whatever it may be, but they don't know how to communicate that. There's so much that goes into copywriting. It's the messaging, the positioning, how to structure the offer, all of these things play into it. Where do you think we even start? Because I feel like when people talk about copywriting, it gets lost in so many directions. Copywriting formulas and all these yucky things that people don't like. What is copywriting? What does it even mean to you? Because you talked about the strategy, you talked about the different elements, but let's start diving real deep into it.
Yeah, my goodness, I feel like that, can open a can of worms right there. We could just talk on and on about copywriting and where to begin because there is a lot to it. And it's one of those things that copywriting and marketing go hand in hand. I mean, they are essentially the same thing. And, businesses need marketing to get the word out and to grow. So in terms of copywriting, if I had to tell you where to start, if you're a business owner and maybe copy isn't, something, it's not your forte because, hey, you're selling a product or a service, you're busy, you got a lot on your plate. But if you want to, write copy for some of your emails, set up your email marketing strategy, then here's where you start. And I would say it starts with getting to know your audience. Maybe you already know this, but I'm going to hammer it home because it is truly the foundation to a successful email, to a successful sales page, a successful product page, whatever it is, because obviously there are different forms of copywriting, but you need to know who you're talking to be able to resonate with them. It's kind of like, I'm sure you've heard this analogy before, but building a house. You can't build a house without the foundation, right? It's going to be a pretty wonky house, probably have lots of problems. Maybe it'll fall apart someday. I'm not sure how houses really truly work, but I know that you need a foundation before you build the house. So think of knowing your audience kind of almost like they're your best friend. Like you want to get that close with them, as close as you can, to knowing, what keeps them up at night? What do they worry about? What do they strive for? How do they want to be seen by others? How do they want to view themselves? How do they identify themselves in this world? What values are important to them? Because people don't just buy products or services for no reason. People are buying your products because they're buying into the values that you share. They want to affirm their identity And if your product, your brand can do that for them, then there's going to be a much deeper connection. So a few ways you can get to know your audience. I'm going to be speaking really in terms of email marketing since that's what this is all about. One thing that I really like to do to get to know my audience is through surveys. So sending out a survey via email is one of the best ways to get to know your audience. You can ask literally so many questions on there. I would suggest not going overboard. You don't want to have, 75 questions. People are going to get a little bit tired of that and probably, exit out. But having, 10, I usually do 10, find that's a good number. Making it pretty easy. Typeform is a very common survey tool. So I like to use that pretty often. But finding a survey software that integrates seamlessly with your email marketing software is key. And the reason for that is because the data that you collect from the answers that people give, you want that to go back into your email software so that you can start organizing the data and use it to craft better emails. So, for example, let's say you send out a survey and you're a dog brand. Maybe you sell healthy dog treats, right? So you're going to send it out to your survey to your subscribers. Let's say you have some on your list, and you're going to ask questions like, okay, what's the name of your dog? What size is your dog? What breed is your dog? And what matters to you when it comes to buying healthy treats? You kind of get the idea. You want to really tailor it to your brand. But what's even better is when I send this survey out and people answer, it's going to feed those answers back to the email software. So now I just have to go in and create what's called a segment. A lot of email software providers offer this. And a segment is basically just a group of people that share a common interest. So, for example, you could segment people by the ones who bought, this product. Maybe they bought these healthy dog chews in a small size. You can create a segment around those people and then target them with certain campaigns and certain information that is valuable to them. You can, cross-sell with different products. But the essence here is really making sure you can save that data and analyze it, because that's going to give you insight into your customers and how they tick. So that's the foundation of all copywriting. We're sticking to email today, but it doesn't matter what you're writing, social media posts, product descriptions, knowing what your customers care about and what is hurting them or is frustrating them at this time is going to help you write something that really hits home, that really resonates with them. And you want them to be thinking, oh, wow, this brand just read my mind. Yes, you get it. Because if you have them thinking that in their head, then you just connected with them on a deeper level.
Yeah, Bridget, I'm going to call this out publicly because you said it and you knew it right when you said it, is that we've all heard that advice. You have to know your customer, you have to understand them, but you took it a step further. And segmentation, I don't think we talk about enough in the world of marketing, Bridget. So I love that. That's where you started the conversation, because ultimately, what is segmentation about? You said it right there at the end, which is making them feel like we're talking directly to them, where they are and what their needs are. And that's why along those lines, it's something that I love about your work. As I've been doing research ahead of our session here today, I love the fact, Bridget, I don't hear enough copywriters or marketers talk about this, is also not just segmentation based on interests and needs, but the customer buying journey, their awareness levels. I've always called it traffic temperature. Where are they in that buying journey? Because the way you talk to a cold prospect, maybe you educate them, is drastically different than the way you talk to someone who's ready to buy. If you start educating someone who's ready to buy, they're going to be like, look, I already know what I need. I just want to buy it. Talk to us about those awareness levels. I know it's such a core part of your strategy. It's probably something that most listeners, most entrepreneurs don't think about.
100%. I totally agree with you there, Brian. A lot of people who even are marketers, but especially business owners who aren't super savvy when it comes to marketing, I find a lot of businesses just blasting generic emails out to their entire list of people without regard to any sort of personalization or, thinking about, is this person brand new? Have they bought from me before? Have they been buying from me for 10 years? because those are different people. So they're not taking the time, and perhaps they're just not aware that they need to be speaking to these people in different ways. So yes, the customer buying journey is incredibly important. And if you can keep this in mind at all times, I promise you it's going to be easier to write your emails. It's going to be easier to write any piece of copy that will resonate with your audience, build trust, nurture and build loyalty, and essentially, convert them into paying customers and lifelong advocates. So another way to kind of refer to this customer buying journey is lifecycle marketing. So how I approach this is, when someone comes to your site, maybe you have a email opt-in form. An email opt-in form is one of those things. They come in all different shapes and sizes, but it's most commonly found as popping up on your screen. It says, hey, get 10% off, or hey, enter your email for a chance to win a $100 gift card. Winners are chosen monthly. Something like that. But that's an email capture form. So let's say someone comes across your brand the first time, haven't bought from you, just came across you, and then they put in their email address, and now they're a subscriber on your list. At that point, they should receive a series of introduction emails. So this is also called a welcome sequence of a series of automated emails that they get that's designed to educate them and introduce them to your brand. You want to showcase, hey, here's what we're all about. Here are our values. Here's why we exist, and here's how we can help you. Most importantly, here's how we're different from everyone else, right? So of course, you want to maybe, showcase your products. Maybe you decide to offer a discount as a nice, welcome incentive or welcome gift. And that's all good stuff. But, think about that person. They have not bought from you yet. So you're going to talk to someone differently who is brand spanking new than you would talk to someone who is a VIP customer who's been buying from you for 5 years now and raves about you to their grandmother, right? Those are two different people. So let's kind of dive into that. When we're looking at brand new subscribers, people who haven't bought from you, here's what you want to focus on. They don't know you and they're not convinced to buy from you yet. And what's that common saying? People buy from those they know, like, and trust. Well, they might know you a little bit, but they may not like you, and they definitely don't trust you yet. So what you want to do is you want to make sure your emails and your copy is effectively building that trust and likability with them. So one way to do that is with what I mentioned as the welcome sequence. Another way to refer to this is a welcome flow. If you hear me use the term flow, a flow just means an automated sequence of emails. So if I start throwing that word around, just know that's what I'm referring to. So you want to have a welcome flow set up, and that welcome flow is designed to educate them, to share, how you're different, like I mentioned, to showcase the different products that you have. Usually, we like to showcase the brand's bestseller or bestsellers, a few, just to kind of put that in front of them, help them get to know you. But you really overall want to focus on education. And one thing that is called a psychological trigger. There are lots of psychological triggers, especially in the world of copywriting. Copywriters refer to these all the time. And what a psychological trigger is it's something that subconsciously connects with a reader or a person that kind of boosts your credibility. In essence, it makes the reader more likely to believe you or to want to take action, to want to buy from you, etc. And one great and well-known example of this are testimonials. So think about when you go to buy any product online ever. Let's say you go to Amazon. Are you just gonna, pick the first product you find and just hit checkout? Or are you gonna look at those reviews first? Chances are you want to hear what other people are saying. You want to know what they think because you trust their opinions, honestly, more than you trust the brand, right? So it's the same thing. It works the same way with your potential customers. So make sure that you are throwing that social proof into your initial emails for these new people. You want to put those reviews, those testimonials, and say, hey, we've gotten over 1,000 5-star reviews. Here's why. Here's what people are saying. Or, hey, our healthy dog chew is, the healthiest on the market, or it's, helping dogs live longer, or whatever it might be, whatever your, honest claim is. But you could say, oh, don't take our word for it. And then you'll have a bunch of reviews that people can read. Honestly, social proof is one of the best ways to get people to buy, quite frankly, because we love other people's opinions. So when they're in that initial stage and they have not bought, focus on education and focus on social proof. Now, when they move to that next stage, which is they've bought, so you finally got over that hump, you can celebrate, woohoo, we got our first sale, right? It doesn't end there. And a big mistake that I see a lot of brands making is that they essentially ghost their customers, right? They work so hard to get that first sale, and then after the person buys, nothing. It's like a ghost town. It's like there's no communication or follow-up or any future emails to try to maintain the relationship. It's very interesting, but that's not the time to ramp down. That's the time to ramp up with your emails and with your communication and your relationship building. So what you want to do at this stage is to continue nurturing them. Obviously, make sure you send a thank you email, make it heartfelt, show them that you really do appreciate their business. Another important thing, a part of this post-purchase process, you could call it, are what emails you send. So obviously an order confirmation email is important. This should be automated and transactional. A shipping confirmation keeps them in the loop and says, hey, we got your order ready and it's shipped. And I also like to throw in a delivery confirmation email because, let's be honest, a lot of people just want to stay in the loop with where the heck their package is. So the more you can keep them in the loop, the better. But maybe all of that is kind of obvious or not, but you want to keep them in the loop on where their product is. But aside from that, you also want to offer some education, some further education. So, depending on what your product is, let's say it's, some sort of beauty tool, or maybe it's, I've seen this lately, like magnetic eyelashes. That's a big thing right now. So magnetic eyelashes, there are a lot of brands selling that. And one thing those brands may do is send a follow-up email after the person has purchased, showing them kind of a how-to guide, right? So it's educating the customer and letting them know, hey, when you do get your package, here's kind of, what you're going to want to do. Here's how you put it on. Here are some best practices and some tips so you can have the most success with your product. So you can even link to a video in your emails. You can't embed videos in your emails, but you can link to a video that maybe also shows them what they can do to get the most out of their product. And then, of course, down the road, usually about 21 days or later, I will send a cross-selling email. So this is kind of where segmentation comes into play. So knowing what products your customers bought, you can strategically cross-sell them on complementary products. Or if you have a product that has like an upgraded version or a more expensive version or like a bundle, you can upsell them on that as well. So the more personalized you can make this, the better. From there, if you can get that second, third, fourth sale from your customer, then you're looking pretty good, because studies show that once someone has made at least 2 purchases with a brand, they're much more likely to keep coming back and make those repeat purchases. So your goal is to nurture them and to offer enough value to get them to that second purchase. But of course, you do want to keep going from there to make sure you are nurturing the relationship, building trust until they become a VIP. A VIP customer is someone who has, been with you a long time, and those are the really special people. So you want to make sure you're giving them sneak peeks, special discounts, special deals, because, those are kind of like your best friends in your business. So hopefully, that, I know that was kind of long-winded, but hopefully it was like an overview of how you can approach the different stages of customer, buying awareness.
Yeah, Bridget, I think that was more than just an overview. I think you literally just laid out in real time a strategy from scratch. So listeners, now you can see why I've been so excited to have Bridget on the show here today. Bridget, honestly, I think that what you just highlighted is if someone doesn't have any of these email marketing machines in place in their business, you just laid out start to finish with all those considerations at every different step of the buyer experience. And then on top of that, if people already do have some, let's say they already have a welcome sequence, you just highlighted, hey, your welcome sequence, that's to get them in the door. What are you doing to maximize your revenue from there? My favorite metric in all of business is lifetime customer value. And I think that's something that people forget about is that we work so hard. I love that you called it out. We work so hard to get a new customer. We need to serve that customer as deeply and as frequently as possible. And you use my favorite word when it comes to email marketing. I think email marketing is the best platform when it comes to nurturing. And I just brought up frequency. You brought up nurturing. Bridget, it's the number one question we get from listeners about their email marketing is frequency. After someone has bought something, how often do we email them? A lot of business owners will say to me, well, what do I email them? What if I don't have anything to sell to them right now? And that's when you called them out publicly. That's when the ghosting occurs. What's your take on frequency? How do we nurture them? What do we send them so that it's not just always, hey, buy, buy, buy? Talk to us about that type of stuff.
Yeah. So frequency and nurturing. Frequency is one of those things where honestly, I think it's debatable. It's comes up so much in conversation like, well, are we sending too much? Are we sending too little? What does it look like to send too many emails? What does it look like to send too many emails or too few emails, I should say? And, here's my response. And it's a common response from marketers and it's not everybody's favorite, but it depends. I will give some context. I'm not going to leave you just with that, but it depends on a lot of things. And one being your brand. Are you selling socks or are you selling mattresses? Because socks, someone's going to buy those more often, maybe, every few months, maybe monthly. If they want to buy a lot of socks, they go through those. But they're going to buy it, within 6 months to a year, most likely. Whereas for a mattress, the life cycle of a mattress is several years. I'm not sure how many, like 3, 5 plus. But, if someone just bought a mattress, you're not going to reach out to them 30 days later and say, hey, want a new mattress? Doesn't really make sense. So those are things you got to keep in mind. So whatever kind of business you have, just kind of reflect on the life cycle of it. When will people finish it and likely buy it again? Think about that, and that will help you to consider the frequency of when you should kind of start cross-selling or start promoting other products. But to give you kind of a general answer in the e-commerce space, I would say, 2 to 4 emails a week. Again, there is a little asterisk there because it depends on your brand and on your audience. But I would say if you had to kind of start somewhere and you're just getting started with email, send a couple emails a week if you have the capacity, to do that, the time to do it yourself, or you can hire someone. But send a couple a week and just see how your audience responds. If you're getting, really high open rates and really good engagement and click-through rates, which a click-through rate is, how many people clicked a link in your email. So that's one of the metrics that you can study to know how well your emails are doing, as well as conversion rates, which is basically how many people are buying, how much money are your emails making. So if all of those are looking really good and you're sending 2 a week, I would bump it up to 3. And if things are still looking good, I would bump it up to 4 and just kind of keep going from there. Keep in mind, though, a lot of people think, oh, gosh, sending 4 emails a week to my whole list, like that's going to bombard them. Well, here's the thing. Even if you are sending 5 emails a week, like an email every day, you don't have to send it to your entire list. In fact, you shouldn't be sending it to your entire list. And here's why. We talked about segmentation. You want to segment your email list based on people's different interests, right? If you had a room full of people, is everyone going to be the same? Are we all going to be the same height, the same age? Are we going to all like baseball? Are we going to all like basketball? No. We're all going to have different interests, different desires, different pain points, and we're going to also be at different stages in our life. These are things you need to take into account with your email list because your subscribers are people too, after all. So let's consider that and break them up into different segments. So if you're sending 5 emails a week, let's say, you can send those to specific segments. And that way, you're not bombarding your whole list with emails. So you can get very specific, tailor them, personalize them. And honestly, that's going to generate better results and more sales than if you just blast your whole list. So that's one kind of thing to think of in terms of frequency. Now, when it comes to nurturing, because Brian, you mentioned in the post-purchase kind of follow-up after someone buys, what do those nurture emails look like? Well, if you have no idea, here are some suggestions, some different ideas. You want to obviously continue building trust and kind of nurture that brand loyalty. So you can continue with some educational content. Some examples might be if you are, say, we'll go back to the healthy dog treat brand, right? So if you're a healthy dog treat brand, you most likely care about the ingredients going into your product. And I can tell you that your customers care as well. So what you could do is you could come up with a series of emails that breaks down each one of those ingredients and highlights, the benefits and how it helps their dog, what it does for their coat, or how it helps their keeps their dental hygiene in tip-top shape. So you want to get very specific and think about what matters to my audience. Okay, maybe they want to, keep their dog occupied with, a nice dog chew. They care about how healthy their dog is and what they're feeding them. So think about those things and come up with content that is going to educate, that's going to inspire, or maybe even humor them. Right? It depends on your brand voice, of course, but if you are more of like a quirky brand and you can kind of fit some humor in there, make it fun with your language. For one of my clients that I am working with right now, we actually just sent out a pop quiz, right? Because the school season is starting, it's actually already upon us. And so I thought it would be fun to kind of leverage that season that we're all aware of and put out a pop quiz. And this isn't anything hard. It's just kind of playful. It's to encourage engagement. And it basically, asked a question and gave a few different answers. And we, revealed the answer at the bottom of the email. So, people can read it, they can think about it, make a guess, and then they can see what the answer is. And, it was no hard sales. Obviously, it came from the brand. So if they're interested in buying, the brand is staying top of mind and they can go ahead and click and buy. But that's one thing you want to keep in mind is you don't want to just send promotion after promotion after promotion. Consumers these days are sick of that. They are tired of it. They are bombarded with it. People love to buy, but they do not love to be sold to. So your challenge, your mission is to engage with them in a way that builds trust, educates them, and keeps your brand and products top of mind, that shows them how your product can solve their problems without coming off too salesy. But there are lots of things we can dive into. Those were just some examples, like the pop quiz. You can come up with challenges as well, where people maybe have to reply back to the email and send in a photo or something of their dog wearing a cute costume. And then maybe on social media, you can announce the winner. So that way you can kind of couple email with social media and leverage the two platforms. As you can see, there's a lot that you can do, but those are just a few suggestions that hopefully give you some ideas.
Yeah, Bridget, honestly, I can see why you enjoy this stuff so much, because when we talk about copy, I feel like people take it in so many different boring ways. I'm going to once again call out copywriting formulas, which those do have a time and a place for people who are looking at a blank page and they're like, I don't even know where to start. Cool, leverage a formula for inspiration, but Bridget, what you're sharing with us right now is really, I kind of view it as your bag of tricks, where you're just like, there's a million different opportunities and possibilities, and so much of it is fun. And it comes back to what is the brand and who are the people? Because to me, when we talk about frequency, I love the way that you answer that question is let your customers, let your audience, let them guide you. If they're opening it and they're clicking it, they like it. And I always tell people, if you serve people in their inbox with things that they look forward to, they want to get emails from you. And it sounds like that's so at the root of your strategy when it comes to email marketing is, hey, give them what they want, give them what they need, and they'll love to open those emails. So I love that. Time has flown by here. I genuinely feel like this is a masterclass in email marketing and copywriting. And Bridget, I always end every episode with our guests by asking them that big question of what's something that you think that listeners should do. But I think you've given us so many things that they should do that I'm going to pose you a different question to close out today's session. And just an aside for listeners, we are for sure inviting Bridget back for an Action Saturday because I think we can all tell that she has so much insight and so much knowledge to share with us as well as action. So Bridget, instead, at the end of today's episode, what I'm going to ask you now is, what's a big mistake that you see people doing when it comes to email marketing? And let's assume everybody's doing email marketing. So the biggest mistake could be that they're not doing email marketing. Let's say that they are. What's the biggest mistake that you see business owners doing in their email marketing? And what would you rather see them do instead?
Such a great question, Brian. I have so many things that just popped up into my mind right now. I'm like, okay, which direction do I go in? I feel like I already touched on the fact that one mistake is people blasting off a generic email to their whole list. So I'm not going to say that one since I already mentioned it. The other one that I actually saw recently with a client that I just started working with, when I did an audit for their email marketing strategy, I noticed that they only had one automated email setup. Now, they were sending different campaigns, and a campaign is like a one-off email. Think promotional, educational emails that you send, every week. Those are campaigns. Now, they were sending those here and there, only for sales, which I typically don't recommend. But when it came to their automated email sequences, they only had one, and that was for their welcome sequence. Now, here's why this is an issue. We didn't really dive into this yet, but I'll briefly say, your email sequences, the automated sequences, are honestly going to be your biggest revenue generators. So if you're going to prioritize anything, it should be those. It should be making sure those are set up. Even if you can't send out the campaigns every week, if you set up the automated sequences, also known as flows, then you can essentially set it and forget it, which I don't completely recommend, but if you're short on time, these are sequences that are going to send to subscribers while you're asleep, which means they're also going to make money for you while you're asleep. So my suggestion would be to not neglect your sequences. Make sure you have these three specifically set up. I'm going to tell you what they are right now. There are a lot of email flows that you can set up, but these are the three that are the highest revenue generating across all the different industries. And they are this: a welcome sequence, an abandoned cart sequence, and a post-purchase sequence. And you want to make sure you have more than one email in each of those sequences because you want to stay top of mind with your subscriber, and you want to make sure you're maintaining those touch points because people need to see your brand. I think the statistic is like at least 7 times before they buy. So you do want to stay top of mind. So I would say my advice would be, don't neglect the email flows. Don't just have one set up. Make sure you take the time to put those into place, even if it means you have to sacrifice the campaigns for a while, because those flows are going to be the ones that make you money on autopilot.
Whoa, Bridget, bringing the heat up until the very end, the actionable heat, which I think is really what separates you from so many people who are out there doing marketing, doing copywriting, doing email marketing. I think it's really powerful. All of this stuff that you told us is not only incredibly insightful to see the way that the strategy part of your brain works, but it's really actionable for every single business owner. These are systems that we need in place. I know that listeners are going to be chomping at the bit to learn more about what you do, to see your copy in action. I love so much about your outward facing brand. Obviously, you've shown us how authentic it is because we feel your energy here in today's session. So take this stage, Bridget. Tell listeners where they should go to learn more about you, the awesome work that you're doing, as well as your company, Beeline Copy.
Yes. So I will say I am most active on LinkedIn. You can also find me on Instagram, but I'm going to give you my LinkedIn because that is where I share all of my tips, tricks, and golden little nuggets when it comes to email marketing and copywriting. I post at least 3 times a week over on LinkedIn, so you're always going to get, new content that's going to help you to ramp up your email marketing strategy and make more money. So you can simply just type in Bridget Poston. And I'm sure, there's going to be a link in the show notes, and you can look up my name on how to spell that. But go ahead and find me on LinkedIn. I have, case studies on there. I post content all the time that will give you ideas on how you can make your email strategy one that is generating more revenue than honestly you thought was possible.
Yes, listeners, you all know the drill. As Bridget alluded to, we are linking to her personal LinkedIn down below in the show notes, wherever it is that you're tuning in. And I will say firsthand, that is actually how we came across Bridget and her work. And gosh, am I glad that we did, because honestly, she is so committed to helping business owners grow their businesses. She said it in the very first answer in today's session is that's what she's passionate about. You saw all of that. So it's amazing content from someone who's incredible at what she does. So don't be shy. Check out the show notes. Add Bridget on LinkedIn, even if it's just to say thank you for coming on the show here today. So Bridget, let me, on behalf of so many listeners, thank you personally for joining us here today and sharing all of this stuff, a true masterclass here on the Wantrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been so fun.